Hello, ladies. How are you tonight? I am. I have been struggling with this. I know that I have been. The Lord has been telling me to share my story with you for a while, and He and I have been negotiating, and He won. There's been so many emails and so many private messages that I've gotten, and it's just been so overwhelming that somebody needs to hear this. I don't know who it is, and maybe several of you, but it's not something I'm proud of, but it is my story, and it is it's what made me who I am now. And I talking to Michelle earlier, and it physically makes me sick to know that I have to share this, because it's your past, but the past is what makes you who you are now. So the past is there, and if it's what I've been through in my life, if it helps somebody else, who am I not to share it with you? So I'm just going to start right at the beginning and start with my childhood, which was amazing. Grew up in church, have the greatest parents in the world. They have been married, be married 50 years this year. Have the greatest sisters. We're all best friends, and grew up in just a fantastic childhood. My parents tried to protect me from this horrible world, and everything we did was in church. We were open. We were there every time the doors were open. Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. We were there for visitation. Anytime the youth did anything, we were there, and that's just how it was. And so, being that that's what that's where we were, then that's who I dated. I dated the guys that were in church. And when I was 16, when there was a guy that came to church that he had not been there before, and he came with his grandmother, and we started dating. And when I was 16 years old, we went on a date, and I was date raped in the back of my car. And from that moment on, my whole life changed, because I was somewhere that I wasn't supposed to be, so I couldn't go home and tell my mama. And I just harbored that weight. Was just like, the guilt I felt was overwhelming, and I felt unworthy. I felt unforgivable. And instead of running to the Lord, I ran as far away from Him as I could. I just kept going. My entire life changed that night, and I became very disrespectful. I became very defiant. I started hanging out with the wrong crowd. I started drinking. I started being so rebellious, just a complete rebellious spirit. I became a different person. We grew up, we're going to save ourselves for the man we're going to marry. That's what we're going to do. Well, and I had that taken away from me. And because of that, I really felt unforgivable. That's how I felt. I felt the Lord, I'm worthless now. There's not going to be a man that'll ever want me. And so I ran hard. And when I was 19, I met a guy that was in the Marine Corps. And this whole time I was still defiant, so defiant with my parents and disrespectful. So I met a man that, wasn't a man, he was 19 years old, kids. But he was in the Marine Corps, and he was stationed in Okinawa, Japan. That's where he went, and I went with him. I bought me a plane ticket, 19 years old. I don't think I'd ever been on a plane at that time, and went around the world. That's how far I was trying to run away and get away. And I remember my parents begging me, please don't go. And it didn't matter. I was an adult. I could do whatever I wanted to do, and I took off. I was gone. And I had been there, I guess, about 2 weeks the first time he hit me. And it was shocking. My parents had never done anything like that. They've always, my household was filled with respect from my dad to my mom, and hit me. And then I was flabbergasted and believed his lies of, I love you and I'm sorry and I'll never do it again. And he did. He did over and over again when we were in Japan. So in my childish mind, you know, I thought, well, if I marry him, he'll change. He'll change. So he was from Hawaii. We moved to Hawaii and got married. And immediately the abuse started again. It was on a daily basis. It was hell. A hell. That's the only way I can describe it. Broke my nose, sliced me with a knife, tortured me. He isolated me, and over again, it was, you know, why'd you make me do that? You know, I believed it was my fault, but the physical abuse was no worse than the mental and emotional abuse of being degraded and name calling and just, again, feeling worthless. It was, you really can't explain it. It's just, you feel like you are worth less than a piece of sand underneath their feet. It's just horrendous. And the only way I got out of that was by God's grace. I mean, that's it. That's the only way I got out, because if I had stayed, I know for sure I would be dead. No question. Got out by the grace of God and, you know, my wonderful family here, and came home, was pregnant with my daughter, and moved back in with my parents, who, you know, it's like the wayward son, prodigal. So what is it? The prodigal son that came back home. They were, you know, they just welcomed me home, no judgment, just loved me, and lived with them. And of course, I went back to church. I started going back to church and just went through the motions. And as soon as my daughter was born, took off again, got out of the house, stopped going to church, and it was, you know, so easy to fall back into the same routine, you know. I was on a mission to find her a dad. That's what I was on a mission to. She deserved that. It was my fault that she didn't have one, and so that's what she deserved. So I found a guy. He was an older guy, and got married to him. Great dad. He's still a great dad. But, you know, God was not in the center of our relationship. We did not go to church. The only time Taylor went to church was with my parents. And so, needless to say, it was not a good marriage at all, by any means of the words. It wasn't. But just a few years in that, found out he was cheating on me. And I'm telling you right now, I am not blameless. I am not blameless, because as soon as that happened, that gave me free reign to do whatever I wanted to do. And I did not divorce him because I did not want Taylor to grow up in a broken home. I thought she deserved more than that, and I was willing to sacrifice my life for her. And probably the stupidest thing I've ever done, because instead of taking her out of that situation, it was a hostile environment, and the fighting and the name calling, and again, emotional and mental abuse was just, it was horrible, and it was on both sides. I mean, I talked to him as bad as he talked to me, but it was, she had to grow up in that, and she had to listen to that and listen. It was not a good environment, let's say that. And a child should never have to comfort their mother, but that's what she had to do for me all the time. Sorry. But again, I felt worthless. I lived for Taylor. We became just roommates and lived for her. Everything I did was for her. And I felt so empty. My life had no meaning except for her. I was, again, unforgivable. That word kept going. That word kept coming up. Just unforgivable, and very depressing, very, very depressing. But in 2009, our church had a reunion, a choir reunion, and I was invited to come back along with everybody else. And Michelle and I have been friends since we were 10 years old, and she has, every time I've needed somebody, she's been the one I've called. So she's known this, everything that I've gone through. Here's my sweet husband. And in 2009, we had this choir reunion, and went to the church and stood next to Michelle to sing. And the Lord's Spirit was completely filled that place. And Michelle, Michelle and all her, you just got to know her. She just lets it go. But she was just like, the Lord just came over her, and she was just worshiping. People on this side were worshiping. People on this side. I felt nothing. I was so empty, and I wanted that. It was then I was like, that's what's missing. That's what's missing from my life. That's why I'm empty. So got through that one. We had another service like we did it on that Sunday night, and then we had another one on that Thursday night, and went back and did it again, and the same thing. The Lord was just all over that place. And that was such confirmation for me. And when I got home that night, I fell to my knees, and I didn't even know how to pray. Even though I had grown up in church, I didn't even know how to pray. But I just said, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything. And the weight that came off my shoulders that night, all those years and all that stuff I'd gone through, I was forgiven for it. Even though I thought I was unforgivable, it was all forgiven right then. And this time I didn't just go through the motions. I sold out to Him. Whew, sorry. Whew. Sold out. And I quit going to the places I had been going. I quit hanging out with the people I'd been hanging out with. I quit listening to the things that I had been listening to. And I was a new person in Him because of His forgiving grace. Nothing I did. But the only thing good in me is Him. That's it. That's the only thing good in me. And the thing was, He never left me. He never left me. I had to go back to the place where I left Him. I left Him. He was still there. I just had to go back and find Him again. And He did not ever leave me. And I look back over all these things, and for so many years, I was just like, I didn't understand why I had to go through what I went through. But Joel 2:25, my absolute favorite verse in the world, is He will make up to you the years the locusts have eaten. And has He made them up. He has used my story and every single bad thing that I've gone through. He has used it for His good in somebody's life. It was either in our college girls' Bible study, and now this. Everything I've been through is for somebody on here. I don't know who it is. I don't know who you are, but He's using what I've been through for somebody to give you hope. There is hope. I'm telling you, there's hope. I swore off I'd never get married again. I would never get married again. I am married to the sweetest man that you have ever met in your life. He is God-fearing. He loves Jesus, and He loves me more than I ever deserve to be loved. And the Lord, He handpicked him for me. And I had to wait this many years to get him. And I want to read you something, because after 2009, I had said that I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to work on me. I am not qualified to be used by the Lord. I'm not qualified to do anything because of my past. And I found this, and I got to read it to you. It says, Jacob was a cheater. Peter had a temper. David had an affair. Noah got drunk. Jonah ran from God. Paul was a murderer. Gideon was insecure. Miriam was a gossiper. Martha was a worrier. Thomas was a doubter. Sarah was impatient. Elijah was moody. Moses stuttered. Zacchaeus was short. Abraham was old, and Lazarus was dead. God does not call the qualified. He qualifies the called. So I don't care what you've been through. He can use you. And I feel so humbled. And, you know, I say that, why me? Why did he choose me? I don't know. I don't know, but if he tells me to do something, I'm not going to tell him no. As good as he's been to me, that's the least I can do, is just give him what he wants from me. And it's just, I don't know why he wanted me to tell my story. As you can, you know, as now that you've heard it, you can see why I was so apprehensive about doing it. But I just hope it helps somebody. Just know that there's hope. Don't ever give up. Don't stop praying. If you don't have that relationship with the Lord, go back to where you left him. He's still there. He's there. He never left you. He never left you. It's us that's stupid and leaves him. Your life is so much better with him in the center of it. I'm telling you, ladies, get on your knees. And if you don't know how to pray, you know what? He understands our groans and grunts. And the Bible says, whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord. That is not whosoever unless you've done bad things in your life. You are a whosoever. Whosoever. Whew, I love you, ladies, and thank you for listening. And like I said, just go back, go find him. He's there where you left him. And if you don't know him, send me an urgent message. I will introduce you to my Jesus, because I can't breathe without him. I love you, ladies. Good night.